Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us. Today, we are going to talk about our new partnership with AutoElevate by CyberFOX. We just launched this partnership about 2 weeks ago, so we're super excited to be showing it off here today. So for starters, let's do some quick intros. My name's Andy Cormier, and I'm the channel chief here at Syncro. I oversee our marketplace and integration motions, and part of my role here at Syncro is bringing on new products like AutoElevate into the Syncro ecosystem. Now, I brought on two people from the CyberFOX team here with me today. Roberto, you want to kick us off with a quick introduction?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Roberto, and I oversee our strategic partnerships over at CyberFOX. And I also have John with me today, who's one of our great sales engineers.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, everyone. Happy to be here. My name's Jonathan. I'm the sales engineer at CyberFOX, and wear many hats. So just happy to have a conversation today with you guys.
Cool. Well, in just a few minutes, Roberto's going to do a high-level overview of CyberFOX and AutoElevate, and John's going to deep dive things with a live demo. But before we do that, I just wanted to talk for a few minutes about this partnership itself. The integration is now live in the App Center of your Syncro instance, so head over there, look for the AutoElevate app card. It's the very first one that's going to show up there. Pricing for both of the SKUs that we're going to talk about today can be found on that app card, and there's a button there as well that will have an account provisioned for you. Those accounts are created as a 2-week trial, so you can spend some time with it prior to purchasing. And I see Caitlin's posted the link there that'll direct you right into the App Center, into the app card. And one of the nice things about the majority of our marketplace integrations is that our partners typically handle all levels of support, including tier 1. And the same is true with AutoElevate. So if and when you ever need some technical assistance, you do not have to go through Syncro first. You can go directly to CyberFOX. And your AutoElevate charges will simply be attached to your monthly Syncro invoice. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention before I pass things off to Roberto is kind of a personal note from me and just how much of a fan I am about this product in particular. And for folks that know me and know me well, I don't say that kind of thing lightly. I've been vetting around 25 or so potential candidates to bring into Syncro's marketplace for the past quarter or so. And all it took was a 20-minute demo with Roberto and team, which was John in this case, to move that to the top of the list. It's so rare for a product to just focus on one thing, and it's even rarer for a product to just nail every single aspect of that one thing, all the while making it just dead simple for both technicians as well as the customers they serve. That is the very definition of AutoElevate. But anyhow, I'm going to let the product speak for itself. Once Roberto and John have finished up, I'm going to talk about what we have in store next for our partnership with AutoElevate, and then we're going to spend some time answering any questions that you all may have. And just a quick note on the Q&A, feel free to ask questions as they come up in the Q&A box within Zoom. That's where I'll be picking them up from. You don't have to wait until the end either. You can just ask questions as they come up throughout today's session. So with all that said, Roberto, if you're ready, take it away, bud.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Very excited for our partnership with Syncro. Excited to bring AutoElevate, our privilege access management tool, to the App Center. So what we're going to talk about today is introducing that particular tool. So we're going to be talking about a smarter privilege access built specifically for MSPs. And when we're thinking about our cybersecurity stack for your customers, thinking about it in layers. So first, just a little background into CyberFOX as a company. So CyberFOX has 2 tools under our umbrella. One, again, is AutoElevate, which we'll talk about today. And then the other tool is Password Boss, which is our password manager, which we'll be looking to add, partner up with Syncro in the future. But the goal of CyberFOX ultimately is to eliminate inefficiencies and security gaps in password management and privileged access. And so our tool with MSPs in mind is built for speed, control, and protection. So we're cutting through that complexity so that businesses can secure those credentials, streamline access, and stay ahead of threats. And we're going to talk about how AutoElevate allows you to be that proactive security tool for your customers. So what does AutoElevate do at its core? So first and foremost, we're easily removing local admin rights for all users across all your customers. We want to implement least privilege principles while not interfering with work and user experience. So ultimately, we want to be able to keep your customers and your users safe without having to sacrifice productivity. We're managing, it also gives MSPs the ability to manage those privileges remotely by being able to securely approve those elevation requests through AutoElevate, to be able to make automation rules so that you don't have to necessarily intervene every time a user needs an elevation. And then also internally at the MSP with our just-in-time admin elevation, we're eliminating the need for any shared admin credentials that technicians may be using. And then also, just as importantly, we're auditing everything that AutoElevate is touching, full audit logs of those privileged accounts and elevation requests. So we're letting you know what user is requesting and what that request is, what the application is, what the tool is, as well as from just in time, what technicians are logging into what devices as well. And so the problem today, as you can all guess by now, the basic practice is to follow restricting admin accounts. The goal is that nobody at any given company should be logging into their workstation as an admin. Period, end of story. And unfortunately, this is not the case at most companies. Just the simple practice of not using admin accounts can close so many security holes in Windows environments, and it's absolutely critical to stopping attacks. So why do so many users still run as administrators, and why do so many companies still follow this habit? It really comes down to being rooted in old ways of managing endpoints. It's just how we had to take care of customers. There was no way to be able to limit that. Running an MSP is also very time consuming. There's not a lot of time to be able to answer every single request that comes in. If a user needs to update software or download software, it's also super inconvenient for the user themselves sometimes. They feel like they can't necessarily do their jobs effectively. And so they feel like, just let me do what I need to do. And the users, they're not always thinking about security. That's the role of the MSP, right? And the IT team must answer all the elevations and privilege use needs. Again, typically for MSPs that don't have a PAM tool in place, if a user does have a request, they need to submit a support ticket, and the IT team has to intervene every single time. And the biggest challenge of all is the end users themselves. They can be really tough to deal with. Again, running an MSP is very difficult. And so fortunately, there's a better and safer route by implementing a PAM solution. So one of the common misconceptions we hear a lot is companies thinking, well, I'm not a huge enterprise, or I'm just a small business, so I doubt that we'd be targeted by bad actors. And they aren't totally wrong, because what we typically hear in the news are when those big companies have a breach and an incident. So it's not necessarily the big game hunters, though, that we need to worry about, because most attackers are opportunists. They simply are playing the numbers game. They're getting a list of random emails and names and conducting mass phishing campaigns. So they're looking to get lucky by playing this numbers game. And if a company doesn't have proper security measures in place, they'll be an easier company to attack. And it doesn't matter if you're a one-person shop or you employ hundreds or thousands of people. And so for context, as you can see on the slide, small to medium-sized businesses make up most of the world's economy and are responsible for more than 50% of its employment. So that's obviously a really massive group of companies that bad actors can target in bulk, who may not have the capital or resources to implement the most advanced security tools or have a dedicated SOC team to prepare themselves. So we definitely want to get rid of that notion that small and medium-sized businesses are not targets, because the statistics say otherwise. And so what are the easiest routes to breaches? What are the easiest ways for hackers to gain access and do damage? And regardless of target size, the top attack patterns are usually the same. It's social engineering, system intrusion, and basic web application attacks that represent the vast majority of breaches. And one of the biggest attack vectors of an organization is its employees. More than 90% of cyber attacks rely on social engineering techniques. So this means that cyber criminals don't have to use advanced coding skills or sophisticated software to gain unauthorized access into a system. They just need it to be a just a human that they can exploit their vulnerabilities, which is trust, curiosity, and or fear all at once. So they usually start tricking someone into giving them access. And once they're in, they're looking for easy ways to move around an environment without anyone noticing and conduct malicious attacks. They're exploiting things like native Windows applications, binaries, and DLL files to perform what we would call living off the land attacks and getting around application control. So first, they may be looking to see if UAC is turned off or if it's at a very low setting, which Microsoft puts in place to protect operating systems from unauthorized changes. And so this also includes shared admin credentials. Those are also another attack vector. And anytime you put shared and admin in the same sentence, that's usually not a good idea. That's very rarely a recipe for success. Because not only will they have access to local admin, but to one computer, but chances are pretty high that most of the time that shared account is placed on every single computer to make it easier to manage them all. And so this is how CyberFOX kind of approaches thinking about cybersecurity. So if these small and medium-sized businesses employ most of the world, they can't dedicate a lot of time and money to cybersecurity, and they certainly can't withstand the devastation of an account breach. So what should they do? And surprisingly enough, a vast majority of attacks can be protected against by just using the basic security practice and securing those attack vectors that I just went over. So that practices like highlighting the importance of cybersecurity to your customers and building end users awareness through training can make it harder for attackers to trick them into giving access or credentials. You want to apply zero trust principles and limiting the impact of an attack by making sure all systems are locked down as much as possible, and the concept of least privilege is being used. So this is really where AutoElevate comes into play. PAM is a crucial cybersecurity approach that helps protect sensitive systems by controlling and monitoring accounts with elevated access. So instead of giving users more permissions than they need, those end users should only have access to what's necessary for their roles without having to sacrifice productivity. So as you can see on this image here, the outer ring of this image represents the largest attack surface. And as we've discussed, most malware attacks require some form of initial access, something that typically involves user action. So our goal is to remove that main lever that bad guys use to get a foothold, which is privileged access. So think of AutoElevate as that proactive tool that is, the foundation for keeping your customers safe. And so an analogy that we use a lot at CyberFOX is this idea of your house and how you keep it and your family safe. At your house, you can have the most state-of-the-art security system. We compare this to like having your antivirus, your EDRs, your MDRs, your SOC, your SIEM tools. Those are all very reactive and they're all great solutions. They will certainly alert you if someone breaks into your house. But if you don't have a PAM tool in place like AutoElevate, it's the equivalent of keeping all of your windows open in your house, right? Again, the security system is not going to pick up on that because you already have doors open. And a lot of times, by the time your system realizes that someone's in the house who shouldn't be, the damage has already been done. So this is kind of like what it's like having, this is what happens when a bad actor has access to an account with privilege. So AutoElevate is working with all of these tools that I mentioned before, the antivirus, the EDRs, and the MDRs. We're working with those tools to close all your doors and windows so that when a bad actor tries to breach, your tools will then alert you in the fastest time. Your response time can be much quicker this way. So it's not just about detection, it's really about prevention. And so that's ultimately what AutoElevate is looking to do for your for your business. The big stat that you can see on this particular slide is 9 out of 10 successful breaches are because that bad actor has access to an account with privilege that they're abusing. So just by having AutoElevate in place, you're taking care of just that massive statistic right there. So John here is going to go into a live demo of the tool, but I wanted to include this QR code for folks. I know the link was dropped in here to our page in the App Store, but App Center. But if you wanted to take a picture of this QR code, it'll also take you there as well. And then I'm going to hand it over to John.
Cool. Thank you, Berto. And so, yeah, Berto went ahead and kind of told you why we should be removing local admin accounts and securing the environment further and just following that principle of least privilege. So now we're going to show you AutoElevate in action and just how this can improve that security hygiene. So just starting in here, we are looking at the dashboard. So we are MSP centric. We make it fairly easy to manage all of your clients and have full control of what's being done with privilege. The dashboard right here, this is going to just show a high-level overview of what's going on. Great little return of investment here. So we'll highlight exactly how much privileged events and ticketing has been saved with the automation piece to AutoElevate. And then down here, just really important things. So from the security aspect, we are highlighting UAC. So user account control is a Windows security feature. And essentially that is just making sure if anything is running with privilege or attempting to elevate something with privilege, you get that box and it's kind of just a check like, hey, are you sure you want to allow this? And usually if you're a standard user, you would have to have someone with privilege come in and handle that. So that is very important to make sure that it's up to par to the standards of having it at least level 3, level 4, so nothing slips through the cracks and is allowed to run with privilege without us knowing. One other thing we're going to highlight is admin accounts. So really important, we will be able to see all of the local admin accounts on the machine. And a cool little feature with AutoElevate is the remove admin feature. So we're telling you, hey, we need to get all the admin accounts removed from these machines, but we want to make your life as easy as possible. So remove admin feature is something you could enable, and that will actively demote any users who are local admin down a standard for you. So it's a great little feature there, help you clean it up, save you some time on that point. So let's go to the computers tab here. And so what this tab here is, it's going to allow you to manage all your computers. So every company that you have or client that you're managing will be broken up, and then you can drill down into it and separate or group computers by a location level. Now this, you could do departments, you could do the actual office that you're managing. And within those, that's going to list out all the computers here. Now, key pieces of information that I like to highlight here is, again, the UAC information. So this will let you know if UAC is not up to the levels of at least on and dim level 3, level 4, or in my case, I have it at maximum. With AutoElevate as well, let's say you deploy out the agent, which is a super lightweight agent. It deploys via RMM. You could do PowerShell scripting. You could do MSI installations. So you have a lot of options when it comes to deploying out the agent, and it's fairly quick and easy. But yeah, once you deploy it out, you have all these settings here that you can manage. So one thing you'll notice is we have something called an audit mode. AutoElevate, the agent, will deploy an audit mode right off the bat. And this is going to ensure that you're able to gain an understanding of what's going on in the environment, see who has admin rights out there, and also actively build rules in that automation piece in the forefront That way, when you do turn it into live mode and restrict admin rights, it's not like you're just ripping the rug from underneath your users. The things they were doing that you've captured and created an automation rule for will just work. And it's going to give them the feel that they still have that admin privilege, but now you know in the back end that they're standard users and they're further protected. So that's what auto mode's going to do. It's a silent install, and users will have no idea it's even on their machine yet. Now, once we place it in live mode, that is when AutoElevate takes action. That is when, if you have that rule in place, it will just automatically elevate, which I'll show you a little bit later. And then if there's no rule in place, we have a neat feature, live request, where they can actually submit that ticket and send it to your ticketing system in Syncro. So that's how we're going to highlight and show you that integration with Syncro as well. So a couple other things in here. UAC settings. So let's say it is low and you need to up it. You can actually just come in here and have AutoElevate change that for the machine. So instead of having to push out a policy or go onto the machine physically and up the UAC settings, we could do it right here for you. And then again, we have the remove admin feature to demote those accounts down. One last thing on this tab here. If we look here, this is going to highlight the local admin group of the machine. So it's pretty much just copy and pasting. Instead of having to, run a script to see all those admin accounts out there, this is neatly right here, so you know at a quick glance who's an admin on their machine there. And this will also highlight active sign-in user and what privilege they're at. Now, with that being said, elevation events. So I don't have too many for today. Let me see if I can drop this back a little bit, get a couple options in here. Perfect. So elevation events, this is going to be your auditing trail. Anything that is triggering or attempting to run with privilege is going to end up in here. Now, this view and any of the grid views that you do see today are fully customizable. So one thing I like doing is putting a, one second here, is putting a filter. So you have all these headers up here, and you can actually just drag and drop them and filter that view. And the reason I like this view is because it's going to neatly group together all those repeats. So any applications that were, applications or processes that were done with privilege that are the same, now it's neatly grouped together. I don't have to comb through hundreds of events to figure out what's duplicates here. Now, building the rule is fairly easy as well. So for example, let's take a Steam client here. So I have this user, Dorian, and he is attempting to run Steam, and I want to build a rule around it. At the top, just basic event information. And then towards the bottom is going to be your identification criteria. So this is how you can customize to get really granular with it. You can decide how restrictive you want to be with this rule. And that's why the file hash is always selected right off the bat. If anything changes with that file, if it's a different version number of it, or it's an update, that file is going to be different. So we can get really restrictive with it. Or if I want to automate as much as possible, have it more of a set and forget type of rule, I can open up this rule and cast a broader net. So for example, I can deselect that file hash. Maybe I want to make sure it's Steam using this file name. And on the left-hand side, it's pretty much like if and statements. So if the product name is Steam Client Service and the file name is Steam Service, maybe there's a version number in the file name. I could always delete whatever I want and wildcard it. That way I can make sure if there's a version, I can wildcard that, and then any update from here on out is going to work. Now, the most important piece, since we're not using file hash, will be the publisher certificate. We want to ensure at least that it's signed and verified from the vendor. And the goal here is to find static criteria. Best thing to use right here is going to be subject elements. And then I could just, select all of these. These are always the same. And now I've built out the rule where it's going to automate as much as possible. And then on the right-hand side is your then statement. So what you want the rule to do. You can approve something. This is Steam, so I most likely would deny it. You do have elevation types, which is very important. So the way the AutoElevate agent works, either it will generate random credentials like an over-the-shoulder admin account and elevate as that admin, or we can elevate in the context of a user. Now that's important if you have those applications that need access to network resources or a map to shared drives or changing user personalized settings. So you can elevate as that user. And that's essentially replacing the whole process of taking a user, putting them in the local admin group, signing in, doing the elevation, signing out, taking them out of the group. It's going to get rid of all that. Now it's just a click of a button and, now they're elevated when needed. And then level. So you can get really granular with this and apply the rule to a specific level if you wanted to. Maybe it's Adobe and all your clients use it. You could just apply it to everyone, and then you can drill down and get really specific on these. And that's how you build a rule. So pretty simple process, but as you build your rules out, that's when the automation piece will come into play. So if I actually just come to this desktop here, and I know I already have a rule for this Java install, and I go to run it, what's going to happen is UAC would pop up, and the agent's going to examine the file real quick, and then just elevate. Or not. 1 second. This is if there's no rule in place. So let me go in here, make sure I have that elevation piece. Elevation rules. All companies, Java setup. Yeah. So I have this rule here. So what I'm doing now is I'm just seeing if the rule was attached. No, it was not. So let's do this actually. Let's request it. So what I'm doing now is we'll just pretend there's no rule in place here. And this is the live request portion of it. So let's say as an end user, I'm attempting to install Java. I got this pop-up. This is fully customizable. So you can change the wording and messaging here. You can add your branding if you need to, and get really specific on what information or steps you give the end user on what they're seeing. Now they can click no, and that will allow them to back out and not submit the request, but we're still going to log this and make sure that anything that's happening, we have that audit trail. But for here, I'm going to go ahead and click yes. And this is where the integration comes in. So if I go over to my ticketing system, and now I can see right here in Syncro that the ticket just came in, and I can review it. Oh, let me back up one
Yeah, you
page.
click the customer record there, click
Yeah.
the number of the ticket, it'll drill into the ticket for you.
Yep. All right. Then right here, I'm just having all the information. So ticket number, got the UAC authorization request. That's how it'll come in. And then here you'll see some information. So it's a privilege request. Most important part here is going to be right down here. So within the ticket, you'll be able to see if any indication of malware has been found. So what this actually does is takes the file of that application, runs it through a full license of VirusTotal, and will see if anything's been detected, or from out of all of these vendors, if they found anything malicious with this file. So it's a great security check to just make sure it's as safe as possible. And if you do see anything in here, that's a great time to take a pause and drill down and see if you need to make sure it's safe or not. Oh, I accidentally closed out of it. And then we also have some general information. So the who, the what, the when, where. We'll do security checks as well. So we'll let you know if the cert's been verified or not, if antivirus is enabled on the machine. Hopefully just giving you as much information as possible to make that educated decision if you want to allow this or not. Now, once you're ready and you want to approve it, you would just click on here. That will open up the request in the web app for AutoElevate. And then here I have the option to approve or deny. So I will approve it. You can do one time, which will just be for that one single request. Next time I attempt to download Java, it's going to request for this again. Or I can actually build a quick rule for a specific level if I just want to go ahead and make that a rule, automate it as much as possible. So I'm going to just approve it one time. I'll leave it as administrator and then hit OK. Now, on the end user's perspective, even if I moved on and I was doing something else, this approval tab will appear front and center. And again, fully customizable. You can change the images if you want. But now I have the option to go ahead and elevate or save it for later. So if I'm in the middle of a project or something and I don't have the time to do the download just right now, I can cache that one-time approval, or I can go ahead and click OK. And what will happen is UAC will pop up one more time, and then it will elevate. Now, as an end user, I could just go ahead and install and move on with my day. So hopefully that showcases how this will save some time when it comes to having to set up time and remote in and do the installation yourself. And then let's say I'm going to quickly build a rule real quick off this. And I'm just going to, for the sake of this, I'm just going to approve the vendor, approve all companies, and hit a save. I just made a rule real quick. Now when I go ahead and run it, what it will do is just recognize that there's a rule in place and then do the elevation process. So that's the automation piece of it. And then again, the end user can move on with their day and do the installation, update. Now, it's not just applications as well. This will come in handy for any system changes. So there's a lot in the Windows environment that you need privilege to do. So this will allow you to build that automation around it or approve it. Now, everything we've been doing so far is on the end user perspective. Now, for yourselves as a technician and the MSP managing these environments, we also advise no one should be running as a shared admin account or with domain admin to do this level work. What we can do here is trigger something called technician mode. So it's either a hotkey, Control-Alt-A, or you can do it from a notification pop-up as well. But this is when you are working on a machine and you need to run things as an administrator. Instead of having to generate an admin account, copy and paste credentials, or again, follow that bad security practice of sharing that account, now you can trigger this mode. And then what I'm doing is taking a AutoElevate mobile app that we provide, and I'm going to scan the QR code. And this is following principle of least privilege. So this is making sure that I'm authorized as a technician to use this mode. This is going to tag my name as well to anything I do now in this mode. So you have that full auditing of who's doing what at all times. Now, let's say I want to run CMD as an admin. Instead of having to submit a ticket or build a rule around it, I'll have my quick computer security checks right here, my app security checks, and then the ability to either elevate it as that randomly generated admin account or as that user who signed in. So I'll just go ahead and click admin elevation, and there we go. Now I'm elevated. I can do what I need to do. Since I'm working a command prompt here, I would make sure to close that session, and then I can turn off technician mode. And then now it's back to blocking. So if I'm the end user, I saw what you did, and now I attempt to do it. Again, it's going to get captured by AutoElevate. They'll have to submit it. And that's technician mode. Now on the flip side, what if the machine's locked? Because technician mode is when the machine is unlocked. Instead of having to sign into another account and then do technician mode, we have something called just-in-time admin, which, apologies. Let me do something real quick.
All in the joys of live demos, right?
I know. Yeah, the demo environment is always a pain too. Okay, well, it's not working on the call, but it's the demo environment. But usually what you would see here once you enable it is in the lower left-hand side, your company logo, and then a account name. What would happen is you would click on it and a QR code would appear, and then it would work as essentially the same as just-in-time admin. What this will do is actually build a local admin account on the fly, log you in as that admin. You do what you need to do, and then once you log out, it will completely purge that account. That way there's no standing accounts, no standing admin privilege anywhere. So that's AutoElevate when it comes to the JIT or just-in-time admin and technician mode.
So John, theoretically, I could send as an MSP my techs on site and they never have to know a Syncro credential at all, as long as they got their mobile device and they're authenticated.
Exactly. Yep. As long as they're in AutoElevate as a technician, and then you also can control the who's authorized to use it out of your techs. So it's not just an all or nothing. You could pick specific techs, or you can break it down in roles as well. But
Okay.
yes, they can gain admin access when they need to. So that's everything when it comes to the privilege side of things. Now we have added another feature called Blocker. And that is more of a block listing when it comes to native Windows processes. And why is this important? Well, just like Berto kind of stated when we were looking at the defense and layers image, a lot of the tools you have are reactive, and your antiviruses, your EDRs, they're all predicated off known suspicious activity or malware. So what hackers are doing is they're just gaining access to the machines, they're logging in, and then they're using native Microsoft processes to run attacks, run scripts, try to do their ransomware attacks and shut off shadow copies. So what we've done is we've recognized that security gap. And with this, it will evaluate your machines, and then it will recommend out of this list of 207, and we are adding more as we go, out of this list, which ones to block. Now, this is an active block listing, and what it will do is immediately stop that hacker or that adversary from getting a foothold in the environment. You'll get alerted, and then you'll be able to build a rule around that if it's a legit process. If not, at least we've stopped them. and now you have that indication that something sketchy is going on. And just to solidify it, we're not making this up. If I just go to the Microsoft article right here and highlight this paragraph right here, it just says, Microsoft recommends you block the following. An attacker can use these applications or files to circumvent app control. So even with privilege taken away, your security tools in place, if these are, open, an attacker can use it to kill services and do what kind of attacks they want to. So this is really important to block. And we do have a simulated ransomware attack that I can show. So this is the demo environment. I'm going to run this simulated rat attack. Now in the back end, this is showing what the script is attempting to do. In the front end, what's going to happen is the end user would most likely get a scary pop-up like this saying, hey, everything's been encrypted, pay us 10 Bitcoin and, then we'll unencrypt your data. Now, in the back end, what it's trying to do is run bits admin, and Blocker has denied it and blocked it. W script denied, C script denied. So yes, maybe the browser popped up and the end user scared, but in the back end, we've actually stopped the attack from getting a foothold. And that is Blocker in a nutshell. Yeah, that's the whole rundown. That's AutoElevate. Hopefully you guys found this beneficial.
Yeah, so John, two questions for me. One, the JIT admin stuff with the mobile device is awesome. If I'm on the road and I'm just getting hammered with UAC requests from a bunch of different customers, can I actually approve and deny them right from the mobile app as well?
Yeah, yep. Unfortunately, I can't show you guys because it's on the phone, but yes, you can approve requests, whether that's on the mobile app, you'll have the full functionality within Syncro or the web app. So you'll get those requests there. Wherever you do approve or deny something, it will update the ticket status as well. So everything's tracked.
Got it. And I remember also during our demo, you were showing me if somebody is just hammering that, I need to request this, I need to request this, every one of those will show as like an additional comment on the ticket in Syncro, right?
Yep.
So you can track all that. So yeah, that's awesome. And then out of everything you just showed us, so I know AutoElevate has two SKUs, the standard and advanced. What out of everything that you just showed me is in the advanced plan versus the standard?
Yeah, so the standard, you will get the technician mode, which is the QR code where you can run things as an admin on the machine. You will also get the full privilege live request and automation piece of things. The only things that are part of the advanced SKU will be the blocker section, so that active block listing of those processes, and then just-in-time admin. So that is part of the advanced feature as well.
Great. Yeah. So like I was telling you guys, this product is just awesome. I could not say enough good things about it. I never get bored of watching the demos of this either. And then I know during John's presentation, he mentioned that AutoElevate is easy to deploy over PowerShell. We actually have a deployment script for PowerShell in our community script library already that was provided by CyberFOX. So you guys can just import that into your accounts. You could actually put that right in your asset policies today for deployments.
Yep.
All right, so before we move, and yeah, there's the integration directions there as well. So before we move into Q&A, I just want to talk about what's next for the AutoElevate partnership. Everything we just talked about today is our phase one of this integration, and phase two is going to be launching probably the second half of this year, give or take. Phase two is going to be comprised of two core items. The first is adding all of AutoElevate deployments right into our asset policy. So very similar to how you can deploy like Bitdefender, for example, through your asset policies with a single click, you'll be able to do exactly the same thing with AutoElevate as well. The second one we're adding is support for our upcoming universal billing engine, and this is going to be wicked. We're going to have basically a customer mapper in Syncro that will map your AutoElevate customers to your Syncro customers. Then we're going to pull for usage in your AutoElevate tenant daily, and we're going to take those SKUs and applicable quantities and record them against mapped customers within Syncro. Then you'll be able to pull reports in Syncro showing all of your usage against all of your customers broken down by SKU, and that will be broken down further by all supported vendors. And finally, we're going to take all of that usage and we're going to make it available in our recurring invoice system, meaning we'll do all the license counting for you. You simply tell us what you want to charge for any given customer for which SKU on AutoElevate on the recurring invoice, and we'll update those quantities automatically before your recurring invoice fires. And for folks that include some amount of licenses in their managed services contracts as a matter of regular practice, where you only bill the quantity, if it goes above a certain threshold, like 50 licenses or something like that, we're going to add support for that as well. So you can literally set this once for a customer and forget it as far as billing is concerned. So please, please, please be sure to have a bunch of work locked and loaded for your billing admins, because once we roll this out, they're gonna need some shit to do. They're gonna have a lot of free time. So we're really, really excited about this new functionality here at Syncro, and we're really excited to bring AutoElevate into that world. So with all that said, let's take some time for Q&A. There is a bunch of questions that I see rolling in here. Again, for folks that didn't hear this at the top of the hour, please use the Q&A feature in Zoom to ask your questions. That's where I'm going to be picking them up. So first question I've got here is, will I need to make any adjustments to my security products to allow any portion of AutoElevate through? I assume they're talking like firewalls and whitelisting and stuff like that.
Not necessarily. Most of the other security tools you have in place, AutoElevate works really well with. If there is need for any whitelisting, we provide white glove service. So we'll help you whitelist anything you need, whether that's the host names, and get it set up for you.
Cool. John's asking, is there a way to have and actually there's a couple questions in here relating to like lack of internet connectivity. Like I went on site and the internet's down. Is there a way to have just-in-time admin when the computer isn't able to connect to the internet?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that is something we are working on, to have the ability to generate the OTP code and get logged in that way. As of now, just-in-time admin does require the ability to authenticate. So we're following that principle of least privilege. Now, when it comes to the rule side of things, all the rules and automation piece you have in place is actually stored on the machine itself. So those will still work whether the machine's connected to the internet or not.
Okay, so just to clarify, because that was another question here, like if I've got a billing admin at one of my customers who's always updating QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop rather, as long as we've already made that rule, it doesn't matter if they have internet connection or not. They can just keep handling that on their own.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, cool. Anonymous user saying, one problem we've ran into with removing admin access in the past has been with Visual Studio used by developers. Do you have similar gotchas where AutoElevate doesn't alleviate the need for admin rights?
Yeah. When it comes to Visual Studio or those developer tools, that's where the user elevation really comes into play. That way that they have the ability to elevate their account just for that specific need. And it's the way you build out the rule too. So again, you can open up that rule enough where it's going to work whether they need to do updates or just run scripts within their commands or whatnot. So it will work.
Okay. Todd's asking, for the clients I currently have that are I actually think you guys went over this, but I want to make sure I've got this right, that are configured with local admin on their PCs or laptops. Does that have to be removed, or does the implementation of AutoElevate include removing those credentials? So if I understand correctly, you would just need to install it, and then once the agent's installed, you can demote everybody from that point forward, right?
Yep. So we don't remove, but we and like delete the accounts, but we do demote them down to standard for you.
Okay, great. Couple questions asking you guys to compare AutoElevate to Intune endpoint privilege management.
Okay, yeah, EPM. I will say EPM is a little bit newer. We've had that time to really work out the kinks. I haven't personally used EPM, but I've heard from clients that it's a lot of building out the rules. Is a lot more steps entailed to it. The customization aspect for the end user experience isn't as robust as ours. So it's a little bit of the differences there.
Thanks.
I don't think it does any technician mode or anything like that either.
The technician thing's my favorite because I can't tell you how many times we sent texts on site and then they'd be in a basement somewhere where their cell phone doesn't work and they can't call back for credentials. Like I would have loved to have this in my MSP back when I was in the space. So yeah, I love that feature. Um, Rick's asking, can there also be an admin account left on the computer for managers to install programs? Well, I think this pretty much alleviates the need for that by definition.
Yeah, it alleviates the need for that. Now, if you do want to have that break the glass emergency use case account that you actively rotate, you can whitelist accounts as well with AutoElevate. That way you can have that remove admin feature, but that account's left in the local admin group. The goal is get everything down to 0, no admin accounts, but we understand the need.
Okay, Drew's asking, when you change the UAC, I think he means when you're changing it from the AutoElevate portal, does it require a reboot before it takes effect on the end user's machine?
Only if UAC is completely off, and that's just how Windows works. But if it's just a low level, that updates instantly without a reboot.
Someone's asking, an anonymous user, does this mean we won't need to install an antivirus app like Bitdefender or Avast? It does not mean that. Basically, what this is going to do is it's going to prevent access prior to that happening. But as a quick example, if somebody tries to run something that's infected and I go in the AutoElevate portal, I'm like, yep, go ahead and let this user run it. It's going to go ahead and infect the machine. So that's where your antivirus and going through your EDR and your MDR and all that kind of stuff. That's where all that stuff would take hold. But goes back to that those circles they were showing you, and that outer ring is where AutoElevate's going to take hold. And then basically, if something were to get through, that is where AV would take hold.
Yep.
Did I get that right, John? Did I do good?
Oh yeah, you got that. Yeah, we are there to work in conjunction with your antivirus and your other tools.
Let's see. Will it prevent a run as an executable from running? If yes, can you whitelist executables that can run without intervention?
Yeah, so that's essentially where blocker comes into play. So it will keep that executable from running. You can whitelist around it if you need to. Another key thing with technician mode as well, which I kind of forgot to mention, but if you as a tech need to run any of those processes that are blocked, if you go into technician mode or use JIT, it shuts off blocker. So you won't be stopped from doing it.
Actually, that's great because the next question was, if blocker has rules applied, does a JIT admin allow access to those processes? So I didn't know that
Oh,
either.
nice.
So
Yeah, there you go.
you guys are knocking them all off. This is great. Gary's asking, with blocker, can they request an override?
It's a straight up block listing. You will get notified with the event. There is no, at this time, there isn't a pop-up where they can request it. But yeah, you'll get that notification. You could build that whitelist rule around it if you need to.
Okay. Jeffrey's asking, can this be added to specific PCs, or does it basically need to be all or nothing at a specific site?
No, yeah, you can pick or choose.
Okay, great. With no local admin accounts, what happens if AutoElevate crashes, breaks, etc.?
I mean, we haven't experienced that yet, but if it crashes or breaks again, the rules would work. That's where maybe having, again, like a break the glass emergency admin account would come into play. But yeah, essentially, yeah, if it crashes or breaks, that's something where you may have a bigger problem. So definitely give us a call.
Okay, and another question from anonymous user. What happens when an app updates itself? Do I need to reconfigure my existing rules to account for that? Ooh, I'm going to try because I think I know this one. Basically, if it's the same hash, you don't have to do anything. But if the hash changes, assuming you're doing it by hash, or if the cert all of a sudden isn't signed or whatever, that's when you'd have to do it. Otherwise, you can keep, like in the QuickBooks scenario, you can just keep allowing them to update it, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah. If you build out that rule and you wildcard version numbers and use like the subject elements, then no, if there's an update, it's just going to go ahead and work.
Okay. And I think you showed us this, but just to check, can I go back to a previously approved request and turn that into a rule at a later date? That's effectively what you were doing live during the demo, right?
Yep. Yeah. So everything is tracked with the event logging. So you'll see if a rule was applied, if it was a request, and then you can build a rule off that request at a later date if you want to.
Okay. John's asking, is AutoElevate compatible to be used on Windows terminal servers, aka remote desktop session host?
The caveat with that is going to be the JIT, because obviously when you remote in with RDP, it's already logged in, so you won't have that option to click it. But as long as it's a Windows machine or operating system and UAC is enabled, it should work.
This one is a two-parter. First part, there is no cost to have additional technicians on AutoElevate, right? Yeah, it's just a per agent.
Nope. Yeah, it's per machine.
Okay, and then I know you covered this part. Can different technicians have different permission levels? So that was true both in the portal, but also as the admin creds when you're getting on the local machine itself, right?
Yep. Yeah. So we have the different tiers. You can restrict the ability whether you just want tech level ones to approve and deny requests and that's it, or if they go up the tiers and can make rules and things. You also do have the option to co-manage. So I know sometimes you might have a client where their internal IT team wants to manage AutoElevate and approve things. So you can actually give them access and restrict them just to their company machines.
Oh, actually, I didn't know that. That's great. Okay, we got about a minute left. I'm going to grab one more here. There is definitely more questions here than we're going to have time to answer. So I'll tell you guys what, just shoot me an email, Andy@syncromsp.com if your question did not get answered, and I'll go ahead and get the answers for you.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to add too, just because we weren't able to show the just-in-time live, I did include a link to our knowledge base for that particular feature if you wanted to get more information on that and actually kind of see how that looks.
Yeah, it looks like you dumped that in chat. Oh, I got it in chat.
Yep.
Okay. So last question, Kevin's asking, can you copy rules between customers? We would not want rules to be shared by default.
Yeah. Yeah. You can copy and apply to different levels if you need to without having to rebuild the rule completely.
All right, very cool. Well, thanks everybody for your participation today and joining us. Big thank you to Roberto and John for putting on a hell of a show today. Really excited again for this integration. And like I said, if anybody has questions that weren't answered, feel free to email me directly, Andy@syncromsp.com. Thanks again, guys, for joining us. This was great.
Thanks, everyone.
See you.